Here we go, the review for the Unit 4 tests on linear functions. Basically, to sum up this unit, everything was about a table, a graph, and an equation. The graph was located on the coordinate plane. The table we used was an XY table, and the equations, there were three types: either slope-intercept form, point slope form, or standard form. First set of directions ask you to plot, label these points, and identify the quadrant or axis for each point. Point A is -2, +9. All points begin from the origin. The origin's at 0, 0. You go left 2 and up 9 and label it with a capital A. It exists in quadrant 2. The quadrants are 4 of them. They go counterclockwise, starting with quadrant 1 in the upper right-hand corner. That's the region where all the values are positive, X and Y. So, point B is located in 4, 6. It is to the right 4 and up 6 from the origin, located in that quadrant 1. Then they go counterclockwise. So A is in quadrant 2. Quadrant 3 is where all the values are negative because you go left and down. And quadrant 4 is positive, negative because you go to the right and down. Point C is on the y-axis because the -3 is in the place for the y coordinate in the ordered pair 0, -3. The next set of directions ask you to graph lines. Anytime you have a line with only one variable, that line will either be a horizontal line going from left to right or a vertical line going up and down. Since this line says y equals -8 and there's no x coordinate in the equation, all of the y's in the table will be -8. You can pick any value for your x so long as that value appears on the graph. Our graphs go from -10 to +10, so any number would be fine, but I chose 3 at random. I typically choose 0, because 0 tells me that I will stay on the y-axis. Because the y is -8, I will go down 8 spaces and plot my first point. The second number I chose was a positive number. It so happens to be +3. So my second point will go right 3 and down 8. My third point is -4, -8. -4 goes left 4 and down 8. Notice all 3 points in that table will lie on the same horizontal line. So although the y-axis goes up and down, the y equals a number will be a horizontal line because all of the y values are the same. So if y equals a number, whatever that number may be, it will result in a horizontal line. The opposite is true if x equals a number. If x equals any number, positive, negative, or even 0, it will result in a vertical line, which means the line will go up and down. Remember, all lines are straight lines. Some of them are vertical, some of them are horizontal. And if they have both variables, as the next equation does, then it'll be a diagonal line. The slope, which is in yellow, highlighted in yellow, is -1/2. That tells me I have a falling line. So a diagonal line that is falling will have both an x, y in its equation, but will have a slope that tells me to move in the negative direction. So slope is either rising or falling. Rise if it's positive, fall if it's negative, but it will run. So this equation will fall 1 and run 2. The y-intercept goes in for the variable b, as in begin. That is the point where we begin. That point is known as the y-intercept, or 0, b. In this case, b is replaced with a plus 6. So the first ordered pair I'm going to use will be 0, 6. If I plug in 0, 0 is a very easy one to substitute, because -1/2 times 0 is 0, and 0 plus 6, correct, will result in a positive 6. So 0, 6 will be the very first point in that fuchsia color. Be careful, 0, 6. 6 is on the y-axis. So you go up 6 from the origin. I would normally pick the number 1, but I can't take half of 1 without getting a decimal. So I chose the number 2. If I multiply -1/2 times 2, I get -2 over 2. And -2 over 2 becomes -1 because half of 2 is 1. And -1/2 times 2 is -1. -1 plus 6 is 5 because 6 take away 1 is also 5. So 2, 5 goes right 2 and up 5. Now I can either pick numbers and substitute and solve, or I can just simply follow the pattern. So from 0 to 2 goes up 2, from 6 to 5 goes down 1. If I follow the pattern and go up 2 more, I go from 2 to 4. If I follow the pattern and go down 1, I go from 5 to 4. So 4, 4 is my next point. Right 4, up 4. Now that I have 3 points, I can draw the line. Every line will require 2 points, but 3 is the best number for a more accurate line. Notice the 0, 6 is the y-intercept. Now we can go to the next section that moves from graphing lines to now writing the equation of a line. Notice when I checked my line in light blue, I looked at the slope -1/2, which means down 1 to the right 2, fall 1, right 2, fall 1, run 2, fall 1, run 2. And right here, as you can see, the line was slightly off, so I'm moving the line to line up with the points. In the next set of directions, it says write the equation of a line parallel to y minus 7 equals 8 times the quantity x minus 5, and y equals -3x plus 2. So if I'm looking for the same slope, I first have to identify the slope of the lines I've been given. So the equations of the line, the first slope is 8 because it's in front of the x variable. That first equation is written in point-slope form. So it'll remain y minus something equals, and then x minus something. I'm keeping my slope the same, so 8 will go in front of the x. Now I can pick any numbers I'd like. Anything, so long as the slope is the same. So I'm just going to pick 1 and 2. I could have picked 3 and 4. I could have picked 5 and 6. Doesn't matter. Any numbers you like. They can even be big numbers. The next equation is in slope-intercept form. We know it as y equals mx plus b. Slope-intercept form will put y equals and then x plus. Since the same slope has to be used, the -3 goes in front of x. Now I can pick any other number I'd like. Since 2 is already used in the equation given, I'm going to just use the number 1. I could have changed it to anything I'd like. In the second set of equations, it asks, write the equations of the perpendicular to those 2 equations that are given. First equation again is in point-slope form. Second equation again is in slope-intercept form. But when I know that 2 lines are perpendicular, I know that they will have opposite reciprocal slopes. Opposite meaning if it's positive, it'll become negative. If it was a negative slope, then it'll turn positive. A reciprocal meaning it will flip. So if it's not a fraction, I'll make it a fraction by putting it over 1 and then flipping it. So in the first equation again, The y and the x remain the same, stay in the same place. I simply take the opposite of the slope, which was positive 8, and make it negative 8, and then flip it. So you can write it as 1 over negative 8 or negative 1 over positive 8. And then I could choose any numbers I like. And I picked again 1 and 2. For the second equation, the slope was negative 3. The opposite of negative 3 is positive 3. The reciprocal of 3 over 1 is 1 over 3. So my new equation is y equals 1 over 3x plus 1. And we're done with writing the equations of lines that are parallel and perpendicular. The next set of directions gives us an equation, y equals negative 2/3 x plus 7. And the first question asks, what is the slope? As we've investigated prior, the slope falls in front of, or lies in front of, or is found in front of the x variable, the x coordinate. So negative 2/3 is that coefficient in front of x. Negative 2 means we'll fall 2. Positive 3 means we'll run 3. As for the y-intercept comes after the plus or minus sign, depending on whether it's positive or negative. So the y-intercept can be written as 7 or 0, 7, since those are the coordinates of the point for the y-intercept. You'll begin at 0, 7, going up 7 from the origin. The slope will fall 2 and run 3. Notice I'm counting very carefully to make sure I locate the points correctly. I can continue the pattern for a more accurate line, because I will be asked to draw on a graph for the unit test. So it will check to see if I have the skill to graph correctly and appropriately if I'm given the equation. Now that I have 4 points on my graph, I think I have enough points to graph an accurate line. So I'm using the line tool, as you should use your ruler, to graph the line. Notice to the left is a table. If they ask you to fill in the table, simply look at the graph that you've drawn. Remember, 0 is in place of x. Well, if I look at 0 for x, I'm at the origin. And where is my y? Well, my yellow point is at positive 7. So 0, 7 is the first point that can go in the table. Then I have to locate 3. Where's 3? 3 is my blue point for x. So how many up is that on the y? It's positive. You got it. Positive 5. So 3, 5 will be my next ordered pair in the table. My next ordered pair is 6, 3, because it went right 6 and up 3. And that's how you graph a line carefully. Identify the important pieces of information, such as the slope and the y-intercept. Now the last question asks you to graph the equations y equals 2x minus 5 and y equals 2x plus 1. So 2x minus 5 starts down 5. Positive 2 goes up 2, rising up 2, and right 1. Repeating the pattern, up 2 and right 1, up 2 and right 1. It's easier if I thin out the pen so you can see the points. Now that I have several points plotted, I can connect them using a line tool, as you can connect them using your ruler.